All right, welcome in everybody. Today is episode 53, and we're doing SquadCast from home today. As Max calls it, it's our road game of the week. We haven't done this in a little while. Usually we kind of reserve this for our weekend episodes, but Max, we wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit, and we're back on our StreamYard account with our new branding. I think it looks fantastic. Good job, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll get this rolling here. I'm seeing that Donna Berger's first in. She's already checking in on the Facebook page, so thank you, Donna. As usual, she's one of our biggest supporters, so we always thank her for that. We're going to get rolling here as we go. Adam Schultz checking in, giving us a wave. And I'm hoping that we're also live on our YouTube and Twitter pages, because I know Twitter they changed a lot of stuff in the last little while. It looks like we are on Twitter, so we should be good there. We're getting used to this again, because again, Max, we haven't used StreamYard, which is this platform that we're using. We haven't used this in probably a good couple of months at least, hey?
It's been a minute, but you know what? I'm excited to hop back on. The capabilities on this program are pretty good, so hopefully it lends itself well to our little program here. Now, the only thing I want to make sure of, I have a nice little record button in the top of my tabs here, Clark, but usually I thought there was a button to hit record to ensure that this will be available in podcast form and such. So I don't know if we're going to risk it. I don't know where the old record button is.
Well,
I'm hitting the old settings.
We'll figure it out after, or you can keep clicking away here as we go.
I certainly will.
We can always download it later, especially now that we have a YouTube and a Facebook page. Now, with that in mind, we gotta plug everybody, or tell everybody and plug our new YouTube channel. Just go and you're gonna want to search the SquadCast. If you see right up in the middle there, and in the corner underneath Max, where is it? Over here. You're going to want to go and check out all of the, if you search the SquadCast, we're going to be going live on that YouTube page from now on. We won't be on the Rod Peterson Show YouTube page, which we have been for a while now. So we're going to be doing there. All of our content will live on that YouTube page. We're going to start adding some clips, I hope, as well to that page. So it's not just going to be full episodes. We're going to, cut up our show into smaller clips and post it on there as well. And we hope, if you guys don't mind, just jump over there, give us a subscribe. As soon as we get to 100, we get to make ourselves a custom URL, Max, and I'm pretty pumped about that. So we can make it youtube.com/the SquadCast, so it's really easy to find for everybody. But yeah, if you guys don't mind, if you're out there and able, that'd be absolutely lovely. I should mention before we go too much farther that we are presented by our good friends over at Rockstar Supply Chain Solutions. I'm wearing the hoodie tonight for Roxanne and Darnell. They are great. Make sure you check out rockstar.com for more information on how they can help your business become more efficient, and they can fix a lot of problems for you. They're problem fixers, Max. And on top of that, we're not in the studio tonight, but shout out to our good friends over at IKS Media, IKS Live. There's a YouTube comment I'm seeing, so that's a positive. That means we're at least up somewhere. We're on
Yo Devianche.
So that's fantastic. So shout out to everybody who's checking in. Max, if you don't mind, if you want to take the first couple of, I'm gonna let you go off here because I know you have a little bit of a, I don't know if you're gonna be reading the poem that you sent me earlier, Max.
the poem / short novel.
Yeah, the Blue Jays obviously are done. They're out of the picture right now, and we're going to be seeing between tonight and tomorrow night some wild card games across the league, in both leagues, the National and the American, of course. And the Jays are not involved. So Max, I don't know. Give me your initial thoughts, because I know we're going to talk a lot of Blue Jays tonight, especially with our first guest, Craig Ballard, and with our second guest, Dante Dicario, who has some history with the Blue Jays organization, which is going to be really interesting to figure out. Did I say it right, or did you say it?
I attempted.
You nailed it, apparently. Is it just me, or is it really chopping lots of buffering? That's a good question, Adam. Again, we're just trying this platform here to see if we can make it work. So there's a decent chance it might not be the best connection. So we're gonna work through that, and hopefully it's okay. If it's not working great on Facebook, maybe give it a shot on another platform, and it might be good enough over there. We'll see. It might be my internet connection. It might be Max's internet connection. We don't know. So anyways, Max, give me your thoughts on the Blue Jays, and we'll go from there.
How much time do you got? 7:05. So if everybody wants to kick around till midnight, you'll probably have my entire season synopsis, but we'll try and keep it short. This was a season that was essential. essential to the process. And I know that you being a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, you will relate entirely to this, that the process is important to go through. This is a team that provided a ton of awesome memories. It was a team that featured 7 20-plus home run hitters, 2 40-plus home run hitters, an MVP candidate, a Cy Young candidate, a potential Rookie of the Year. There was literally everything that you could want in a baseball team in terms of excitement, name value, and it came down to 162, game 162, which again, just thankful to have 162 game baseball seasons again. Man, the best days are ahead. At the end of the day, this is one of those ones that it really stings in the moment. I know that being the diehard fans that we are, and again, welcoming Craig Ballard in a little bit later, I'm sure he will echo our sentiments when we say that it's disappointing. The result is disappointing, not the season itself. I think that's the biggest, I guess, underlying thing about it all is when you go through 162 games like this team went through, 3 home ballparks, just adversity after adversity when it came on the injury front. I don't believe there was any other team that signed a $25 million player that was missing him for more than half the season that still managed to hit 20-plus home runs and contribute greatly to the team's success. And I mean, man, a 91-71 season in a division. I don't believe, and I want to fact check myself on this a little later, but I don't believe there's a division in history, and baseball's been around for a long time, that's featured 4 teams in one division winning 90-plus games. This has just been an absolutely incredible ride. The boys came up a little bit short, and it'd be easy to point to one of 100 different things that could have gone right, that could have landed them in this game tonight or potentially even being the division winner. But it's not time to lament on that. It's time to say, okay, 91-71 is a hell of a season by Major League Baseball standards. Came up a little short. In other divisions, they would have been in. It is what it is. You get what you get, and you can't get upset at this team, the youthful energy that was brought day in and day out. And again, man, they took it to 162. And I believe, as Sid Sixero said, many publications said, if the Jays were playing meaningful games in September, not let alone the start of October, this would be a successful season. So when it comes to the Toronto Blue Jays, tip of the cap to you boys. Thank you very much. And I think we probably maybe said it best last night, Clark, in a text chain going back and forth, was we already want next season to begin tomorrow. And I think that's all you can that's the best way to sum up this season is if you want first pitch to be tomorrow for the Toronto Blue Jays, that means that they did something right in terms of captivating an audience this year.
Well, that's exactly it. And I agree. And the other thing with that is too, if you look at the second half of the season, it felt like almost a different season before and after the All-Star break, even, let's say, because again, they weren't in Toronto, they were all over the states with Dunedin, Buffalo, et cetera, and not only that, but you saw George Springer come back as a healthy George Springer, and that just ignited so much excitement with this team. And you saw Bichette and Guerrero take a big step forward, and you saw Robbie Ray start to dominate, and you saw Marcus Semien just set a literal all-time record, best ever season by a second baseman. And then Max, just to spark the heart a little bit, he comes out in his post-game interview and says that he, it feels like there's some unfinished business here. Why wouldn't you want to be here? This is the place to be right now. And it's like, okay, as a Jays fan with this bright blue jersey behind me here, and you're wearing the dark blue, you look forward to what next year could be. And you think of, what if they played the second half baseball all season long? And you saw them sweeping teams. You saw them beating teams they don't normally beat on a regular basis. But they obviously had some growing pains as well. And we talked about that. You talked about that a little bit. They made some mistakes that are mistakes you can definitely grow from in baseball. You look at errors, you look at certain things that they were, pitching changes, decision-making things that Charlie Montoyo, as much as, people want to get on him, he's still a young general manager. He's only been a bench manager. Yeah, not a general manager, a bench manager for just a couple of seasons now. He's still getting used to that role. And I think he's still growing as well. And he definitely made some mistakes. Now, Aaron Matthews is saying the Stroman tweet also has me excited. I don't know if we want to get into Stroman now or if we want to wait for the fireworks with Craig Ballard on that one.
We're going to wait for the fireworks. I make an executive decision.
Okay, we have had. I will say this about this. If I'm going to tease you, Aaron, so stick around here. We have had both Ken Reed from Sportsnet and Arash Madani from Sportsnet on this show specifically, and we brought Marcus Stroman's name up with both of them, and they both essentially laughed us out of the interview. They they both think that there is just way too much history there. So we'll get into that more with Craig Ballard because I know he's going to have the take of the century on Stroman. So let's leave it at that. But anyways. I just look, if they can bring this roster back for the most part, the big question mark is going to be Semyon and Ray. And if they can bring those guys back, I am more than ecstatic to see what happens next year. And I'm looking forward to it. Let's move on, Max, because again, we're going to talk Jays a lot tonight, and I don't want to overdo it early on.
What does Ted Lasso say? What's the animal that has the shortest memory in the world?
I'm going to say an elephant.
No, oh man, you don't watch Ted Lasso. Oh, Clark.
No, see, you can't just throw.
Yeah, you're too busy watching All or Nothing, which just ends in nothing. But the answer, my friend, is
Love on the Spectrum. I've been watching Love on the Spectrum, Max. Very interesting show. Learn a lot from that show, by the way.
No, Clark, we're on Ted Lasso. You're missing it. Just
sorry.
Anyways, my point is, it's a goldfish. Blue Jays fans, let's be goldfish right now. Yeah. And actually, you know what? That's the thing. Do we even really want to forget what this season was? This is, like I said, a season that was very integral to the process, but we'll break it down with Craig in just a few minutes.
I don't think forgetting is the right way to do this. I think you grow from it and you learn from it 100%. And you build from it as a team. So that's where I look at it.
Just now, leave the pain of the memory. Yeah, that's all it is.
There's a lot to learn from. Derek Bone is saying hard pass on Stroman. We're going to get to that. Urban Meyer, Max, I have this in question marks. We didn't prep for this before the show, but I know it's all over the news right now. Do you want to touch this Urban Meyer story with a 10-foot pole right now?
Not particularly. I think the Jags came out and said it best. At the end of the day, they're disappointed. This was a big swing by their ownership group to bring this guy in. 2-time national championship winner. Obviously a huge name. He was supposed to be the guy that kind of came in at the same time as Trevor Lawrence to collaboratively turn this organization around. And 4 weeks in, he's already getting caught out in Ohio doing some things that he probably shouldn't be doing. Urban Meyer's got some making up to do. And I saw a quote today. I don't know if you saw this as well. Apparently, and this is, again, where the source is from, whatever it is, he doesn't have a lot of trust in that locker room right now, whether that be the job he's doing as a head coach or in addition to just what he's going out and doing after a loss. It's one of those things where Urban Meyer, you're paid to do a job, and one of those things is you just can't get caught in those precarious situations, especially when the season is still on the line for the Jags. Again, nobody's expecting them to do too much, but you're trying to establish a culture. You're trying to set a tone for an organization that hasn't really had an identity for a long time. We've talked about that across various sports with various teams. Urban Meyer, unfortunately, is just not exactly the dude right now that's setting the best example for a young team.
That's it. I think you nailed it there. It's the setting the best example. And I think with grown men in that locker room who are probably told right now that they can't really go out and do a whole lot with all the COVID protocols, to see their head coach, who's supposed to be this mature guy, go out and get caught in a situation. I know that everyone's talking about the picture with the girl in the bar, or the video of the girl in the bar. I know everyone's talking about that one. I saw an interview with him. I think he was on like a yacht or something. And
sounds about right.
His buddy comes in shirtless with a bottle of bourbon or something in his hand, a whiskey or whatever it happened to be. And he's like offering him a drink. And Urban Meyer was like, "Get out of here. Go. No, not right now." And I'm like, that's more embarrassing. I know, like, whatever. Like, I know he's probably got a family and whatever. And the girl in the bar doesn't look all that great whatsoever.
Doesn't look a lot like family.
But to me, if you're an NFL coach, you're going to go do an interview with NFL Network, and you can't tell your buddies can't stay out of the room with it has a mirror right behind you that can see everything in the room. Like, that's embarrassing. That's really bad. Anyways, let's move on, Max, because I know we got a lot more to get to here, and we got to get to Craig, and time is running short also already. We're up live on YouTube. We're rolling on Twitter. We're rolling on Facebook. Everything's going. So if you guys don't mind, if you haven't already, head over to our YouTube page. We want to kind of get everyone there so that you can hit that subscribe button. We're trying to grow our YouTube fan base. We just started up our new channel. It's called the SquadCast over on YouTube. So if you just look for that logo or the one below Max, you can probably find our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. We want to get to 100 before too long. So let's do that. MLB Playoffs, we talked about that a lot, and we're going to get more into that with Craig as well, and maybe a little with Dante. But Max, just with it for like 30 seconds. Who are you cheering for now?
San Francisco Giants. That's it. That's
and,
all. And I
why?
believe you'll be with me on this because it's your boy, Evan Longoria, is still with the organization.
I love Evan Longoria.
I just remember. So again, I'll need maybe just a little bit more than 30 seconds, but I'll try to keep it short. AT&T Park, one of, if not my most favorite major league ballpark that I've been to. It's just an awesome atmosphere going there. And this is a team that achieved a lot of success in the early 2010s and is finding a way to recapture it. I liken it very much to what the Chicago Blackhawks are trying to do. There's still some integral pieces. Brandon Belt, Buster Posey coming back, having a year. And they've got a really, really good, intriguing pitching staff. So for me, the San Francisco Giants, and I mean, a lot of people might have caught on to what we were doing with the rebrand a little bit, returning to our baseball roots. There was some motivation as such from the San Francisco Giants behind our rebrand.
I'd like to say it was a mix between the Giants, the Padres, and the Pirates. I think between those three teams, you can see little elements in our logos from all those teams.
Which is ironic because we are diehard fans of an American League team, and we borrowed all of our inspiration from National League teams.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. Now, Max, one guy you didn't make a connection to that I find interesting that we actually had on the Rod Peterson show today, Tim Leeper. He was he's in the organization as an outfielder and base running coach in the minor league system. So we talked to him quite a bit today about the Giants, and he's very revved up about this team. So I'd be okay cheering for the Giants. I'm gonna give the first couple of games a chance to kind of see who I'm really cheering for. Let's get to the Vancouver Canucks because we wanted to talk about this. Elias Pettersson signed a 3-year deal at $7.35 million AAV, while Quinn Hughes signed a 6-year deal at a $7.85 million AAV. Now, Max, I got a message from one of my group chats that I'm in that said, one of these players is overpaid and one of these players is underpaid. Which one is it? And I'll let you decide. But one thing that I will say about Elias Pettersson is that that's a great deal for the Canucks now, but in 3 years, they're in trouble.
Are they though? Because they still haven't walked into unrestricted free agency yet with this deal. That's where I am really happy with the term of where they got to with this. 3 years, it gives them a chance to see what the salary cap's going to do, which a lot of people are prognosticating and predicting that after this shortcoming of obviously profits due to the COVID shortened pandemic seasons. This is where the league is going to start to rebound. And this is why you're seeing some of these deals structured the way that they are right now. Personally, I like the term for both guys. It buys a year of unrestricted free agency from Quinn Hughes. But Elias Pettersson, there's a lot to like about this deal in terms of where the AAV comes in at for what he can produce. Obviously, he has to stay healthy. It's one of those interesting times where he's coming off an injury riddled season where he didn't produce a whole lot, but people know what he can be. And I think at $7.35 million, you're getting exactly what you need out of a franchise cornerstone player that, again, you don't necessarily know if he's going to be that superstar yet. What's his career high in points, Clark? Is he a point a game player quite yet? I don't believe so.
I'm going to say he hasn't played. Well, he might have played in his rookie year. He might have had a full year, but he had a really good year in that first year and kind of took a lot of people by surprise because if you recall, a few teams passed over him, and I don't even think the teams below that 5 spot for Vancouver were necessarily going to pick him that early necessarily. And he came out and just lit the league on fire. And I will say this, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, with how good Pettersson and Hughes were early, I think what had happened was that it accelerated the Vancouver Canucks rebuild, and I don't think that they were ready for it yet. I don't think they were planning for it to be where it got to as early as it did, and that's why you saw them signing the guys like Jay Beagle and Louis Eriksson in the first place, because those were supposed to get them to where those guys were going to come off the books, and then this rebuild was going to take over, and they weren't able to do that because it happened so fast. And I think there's parts of that in other teams as well. I think of the Leafs a little bit, but I think Vancouver is a really good example of, I think, how good those players were, pushed them to a point that they weren't ready yet to really be a contender, and they kind of forced their hand a little bit. So that's what's interesting to me about the Canucks, because they went from one bad salary cap situation, and now they're in a real tight one now. I don't know if it's as bad necessarily, because I think the players they have now might be more useful, and they were able to keep Brock Besser and certain guys that they might have had to deal otherwise. they were able to keep those guys. So that's interesting.
Another underrated note for the Canucks while we wrap them up real quickly, though, is Travis Hamonic is not opting out of this season as well, which is really kind of alleviating some concern on that blue line where Quinn Hughes is obviously directly impacted. I mean, going back to the contract for just a second, I think the acquisition of Oliver Ekman-Larsson is going to do wonders for a guy like Quinn Hughes' career. We know what he can bring offensively, but that two-way game is the thing that he's going to have to develop a little bit. And over the course of the next 6 years, I really think that mentorship role that Alex Edler has played for Quinn Hughes so far, now transferring over to Oliver Ekman-Larsson, there's going to be some really good things for Quinn Hughes ahead in his career. And now he's insulated by a really good D-core. You look up and down that D-core, right? It's Tyler Myers may be, I guess, the overpaid contract that guys don't want to point to too often. But you look at guys like Travis Hamonic, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Those are staple pieces that you can build around. I believe, is Alex Edler still there? I want to say on that third pairing. No, he did retire.
He went to LA. He's with the
what? Kings. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that in the 32 Thoughts blog this summer.
I'm telling you, man, the Kings are my dark horse. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Max, we got to move on. Do you want to talk about All or Nothing, or do you not want to talk about All or Nothing?
Well, we all know how it ended. It was nothing, right?
Well, that's true.
Anyways, no, I'm just bugging you, my friend. Yeah, give us your synopsis. You watched it. I still have yet to watch it. Go right ahead.
Has Craig Ballard logged in by chance? Is he waiting in the waiting room?
Doesn't look like it. Nope.
Okay, so I have a minute. Okay. So yeah, I binge watched this. Now, it came out for me a couple hours earlier than I think it was supposed to. I was able to watch it the night of September 30th instead of the, midnight on October 1st or whatever. So I don't know what time zone they set it to, but I was able to start watching it at about 9 o'clock at night that night. And I watched the whole thing in the one night. And I just figured I'd pull the Band-Aid off and get it over with. And I don't think that, it didn't make me feel better about what happened last year to the team overall, but it made me appreciate certain things throughout the year. And it made me appreciate certain people and what they mean to the team. And when I say that, I mean Sheldon Keefe. I didn't think he had the intensity that he has. And I've heard some people say that that's a negative thing. I've heard some people say that, he's too intense or whatever. But the way I saw him kind of react to how the team played early in the year, saying that they weren't good enough, even though they're winning, they were 13-2-1, Max. We forget how good they were right at the beginning of the year last year. But he kept saying, we're not this good. We're not winning games the way we should be winning games. We're not dominating. We're not putting together performances that will win later in the year. And he was right. And I think I've said this to you in the past, Max. Maybe I said it on the show. If we can, I don't know if somebody can go back and find the clip, but I'm pretty sure I said, I don't feel super confident about the way that they're winning games. Yes, they're winning. But everyone said the North Division was weaker, of course, right? That was the narrative last year. And they weren't winning games that was convincing me that, yeah, they're great. And especially later in the year, when their power play just completely went away. It just went away. I think they were 7% on the power play after like the first month or first 6 weeks or something. They were dreadful. It was dreadful. Their penalty kill wasn't all that great. They got some great goaltending from certain guys when they needed it. And they were able to win games, but not the way they needed to. And it obviously showed late in the season in the playoffs where they were just getting behind early and then they had to play catch up and they were just out of energy by the end of all that. And obviously they had some injuries as well that kind of put them in a bad spot. And that was one thing I really appreciated about the documentary is what it showed all the behind the scenes with Wayne Simmons' wrist getting messed up as it did, with Nick Foligno's back as bad as it was. And I didn't realize it was as bad as it was, but it was not good. It was real bad with, Joe Thornton battling leg injuries all year long, both legs. He was old enough and now he was battling leg injuries. No wonder he was looking slow at times. So without getting into a whole lot more detail, I think it just made me kind of appreciate some of the stuff that they went through last year with the COVID protocols and everything that went on. And it made me feel a little bit more confident in the coaching and management staff overall, that they knew the problem and they've made some changes this offseason that seem to be addressing what they were complaining about in the documentary. A couple of coaching changes, which should address the penalty kill power play. They've made a couple of personnel changes on the ice with players that I'll see how it goes. And anyways, that's the general part of, I don't want to get too into detail and make people shut this off.
I don't think I need to watch the series now. I think I got it all.
I think I summed it up for you. There is some very good family stuff in there, Max, that you might appreciate. They go into detail with John Tavares right before his injury. They had this big, long thing with him and his wife and his kid. And then he gets injured, and kind of the whole chaos around that situation. They showed Nick Foligno's dad hanging out with Wendell Clark, which was pretty cool. They showed Austin Matthews' parents. They showed a bunch of people's parents. And I think, again, it kind of just made you feel a little bit closer to the team, which seems at times like it's a little bit too big for everybody. It kind of just pulled you in a little bit more. So I don't know. I guess I'm in deeper now, Max.
I guess so, if you could be. But you know what? Speaking about summing things up, we have a gentleman in the waiting room right now that I believe we've got a 162-game Toronto Blue Jays season to wrap up. Without further ado...
Do we want to get into Robin Leonard really fast, or do we want to save that?
No, we're going to save that for a little bit later. This man needs to not wait any longer, and I still want to talk Jays. We can talk Robin Leonard a little bit later. But again, without further ado, making his 4th appearance on the SquadCast in the cleanup spot, we have got our main man, Craig Ballard. Craig Ballard, yes. How are you doing tonight, good sir?
Could be better, gentlemen. Now, great to be on the SquadCast. Let me mention the new and improved SquadCast. Loving the new and loving everything new, gentlemen, including the logo, loving all of that. Truth be told, would we rather be watching the Blue Jays play in a wild card game tonight? Oh boy, oh boy.
But that's a rhetorical question, Craig.
Go pretty darn good being on the SquadCast.
Just a little behind the scenes, Craig. There was a 75% chance this episode just wasn't going to happen at all. We had talked about internally, me and Max, and I guess director Jordan, who's not working tonight. He's the night off. But we were saying, like, if there is a game tonight, we're not going to want to do a show. Like, we're going to watch the game. So we were thinking, like, are we going to live stream the game? How are we going to do that? But it turns out we didn't have to. However, they were actually, Max, I don't know if I told you this yet, Max. Good thing we're not in the studio tonight, because they were doing some renos. They're doing a little bit of gear changes and stuff over at the studio tonight. So we didn't even have access to it anyways, even though we already planned this show to be from home. So anyways, Craig, thanks for
playing in Buffalo tonight, Craig, as it were. This is our home. It's not our home, you know. But
just watch out for the stairs, Max. The stairs will get you.
The stairs.
Yeah. So Craig, without blanket statementing this too much, make me feel better, please.
Well, gentlemen, everybody, I mean, in the post-mortem, what am I seeing? I'm seeing everybody, and I get it, it's human nature. Everybody pointing to a specific Marcus Semien against Detroit, Josh Palacios in the previous weekend against Detroit. Everybody pointing to a couple of games where they didn't like what Montoya did or didn't like what the bullpen did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let me be crystal clear. I get it. My point here is that there's a SquadCast Seattle version going on right now where they're lamenting the same thing. There's a SquadCast going on in Oakland where, now they're not as good as this SquadCast, don't get me wrong, but other fan bases are lamenting the same thing. My point here, gentlemen, what I thought cost the Toronto Blue Jays is, I'm going to do some math for you here, and stay with me because I think you're really going to understand where I'm going with this. Toronto Blue Jays, 45 home games were played outside of the Rogers Center this season. Remember, even that, so that was 21 and 21 in the Dunedin and Buffalo. Remember that one gentleman, what game one in that Anaheim series was out in LA, in Anaheim, and was a Blue Jay home game. The Toronto Blue Jays went 22 and 23, below 500 in those home games. Now they come to the Rogers Center. 25 and 11 at the Rogers Center. That's a 690 winning percentage. That is video game numbers. That's a 56 pace win. It's a 56 pace win home season. 0 teams will put up 50. No, the leader this season was San Fran at 55. So Craig, fine. You're not going to get all the way up to 56. They got 47. So that's a 9-game gap. Craig, you're not just going to get all the way up to 56. You're not going to be the number 1 home team. Fine. Go ahead and take away 2 or 3 of those games that the Jays would have to win if all those home games were retro. Go ahead and take 4 or 5 away. Go ahead and take 6 or 7 of them away. Go ahead. The Toronto Blue Jays are still in the wild card. They only needed to be 1 game better than the 22 and 23 on those other road games. They only needed to be 1 game better at Rogers Center to be in the tiebreaker game, 2 games better to be in the wild card right now. Like, I don't even think I'm grasping at straws here, gentlemen. I think I'm really onto something. I think this is one time where math is actually telling us a story.
And you Craig, know what, I said Craig? Make me feel better, or not make me feel like we were that. No, I'm kidding. That did. I do appreciate that. Max, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know what, Craig, at the end of the day, I was very excited to speak with you this evening on what you thought the X factor was. And I mean, again, like you said, we've seen the blanket statements all over. It was an error here. It was a this, it was a that, it was a whatever. But ultimately, every other team in Major League Baseball had 81 home games. home games where they were in their own ballpark. So I'm just, again, that's exactly what I was kind of thinking as when you go into it. It's okay. You lament about this, you think about that, the what ifs, candies and nuts, butts, Merry Christmas for it all. But regardless, like you said, it comes down to the home games for this team, putting up, as you alluded to, video game numbers. And the other thing I guess I would like your insight on is our $25 million man, George Springer. How much of a difference does him not missing 84 games over half the season have to do with them potentially being one game better as well?
I'm going to go right back to the sheer math of it, gentlemen. George Springer played 11 weeks as a Toronto Blue Jay, 3 times was American League Player of the Week. 3 of the 11, the American League voters decided, you know who was the best darn player in the whole flippin' league this week? That guy out there in Toronto, George Springer. And another voter said, again? And the other voter said, yes, again. Like, are you kidding me right now? The production this guy had, he was just starting to get his stroke going. Remember, gentlemen, we've talked about this on the SquadCast before. That's a big reason I think George Springer chose the Toronto Blue Jays as his next destination. He owns the Rogers Center, and he was just getting that stroke going. We just recently saw him get healthy enough to even return to playing center field. So if you've loved anything from George Springer this season, we didn't really get a chance to see anything yet. And of course, the main reason the Blue Jays wanted to bring in George Springer is he's not a good postseason hitter, gentlemen. He's historically one of the greatest postseason hitters that's ever lived. Another reason we've been robbed of this playoff experience. So there I go again, not making producer Clark feel any better. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a question from Myron. I was going to get to that. Good call, Max. Are you going to be going live for any of the MLB playoff games now? I'll just preface this, Craig. Craig is awesome on TikTok, and he goes live and watches entire Jays games, and kind of informs us of what's going on throughout the game. And it's always a good live, and there's a lot of fun, chit chat between the viewers, Craig. And I think you've kind of grown into that as you've done more lives, because I know you're new to it.
Yeah.
So I guess do you have plans for the playoffs to keep doing that? Or are you going to pick a team and maybe run with them, or what are you thinking?
No, great. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate that. What I think I'm going to do, and I appreciate the interest out there as well, and the compliments from Clark and Max. You guys are great follows as well. You know how I feel about you guys. What I'm looking to do is transition into some Raptors stuff. Now, the Raptors season officially doesn't start until October 20th, so maybe I can sort of ease into that and still do some of the playoff lives. A, we're all baseball fans. You all know we're going to be watching the playoff games anyway. And B, to Clark's point, man, I never could have imagined how well, and I say well by my standards. Other people may not think about how well, in my opinion, those lives went. They were so fun to do. Roan, Clark, we need to get Max was in there a couple times as well. There's so many people from different fan bases. So I actually do think I want to do some of the playoff games. I don't know if you saw, Clark. I've had some fun as well. I got the old Max will appreciate that. I got the old scorecard. I'm scoring the games as well. Old school.
Love it.
Right back to old school. I'm scoring it as well. So I'm having a blast with it. Roan and the crew. I absolutely think that I should and will do some of these baseball games on the playoffs. Yeah. Absolutely, yes.
You got to do a couple of them.
Yeah.
So Craig, I'm thinking back to the season, and me and Max have been texting back and forth pretty constantly about just, your mind starts racing with, oh man, but what if this? Oh man, but what if this? And there's a lot of what ifs with this season. Let's look ahead to next season, because we talked about it right off the top of the show here tonight. You look at the Jays after the All-Star break, and the way that they were playing games and sweeping teams, and Springer came back, like you said, was healthy, and Robbie Ray was just like unhittable for a stretch of time, et cetera, et cetera. Jose Barrios, we talk about him, the young guys taking another step. Look ahead to next year. I know it's hard to do right now because we're so fresh off of this season, and we don't know the status of maybe a Robbie Ray or a Semien, or what's going to happen with Teoscar contract numbers, what's going to happen with Randall Grichuk, because he's going to be that guy this summer. We all know, or this offseason. Yeah. He's going to be that guy that everyone...
Bye, Randall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I put this on it from a Maple Leafs perspective, and sorry, Max, but he's our Alex Kerfoot. All offseason, Alex Kerfoot was getting traded every single day, and now Randall Grichuk is that guy for the Jays. I'm sorry for putting... Max is upset because
just pick any other team.
Just saying, he's the guy. So if they can clear him, I think they're good. But I'm going to let you talk, Craig. What do you think the early outlook for next season is, and can they keep this wave going?
Well, the biggest misnomer that I'm seeing in the postmortems is what a wasted opportunity this was, because you'll never get another season like this from Vlad. You'll never get a season like this from Bo. The Robbie Ray Is it every season you have a Cy Young contender? No, but the Jays won 3 Cy Youngs in a row, being a last place team in 96, 97, and 98 with Pat Henkin and Roger Clemens. So it's not exactly the be all and end all. Will Semien be difficult to replace? We've never seen a second base season like this ever in the history of baseball. Let's go ahead and acknowledge he will be difficult to replace, yes. But really, gentlemen, where I really disagree is you'll never get a season like this from Vlad. You'll never get a season like this from Bo. I get it because, Vlad and Bo came up in 2019. We're here for all of 2020, but you have to keep in mind that 2020 was only 60 games, the COVID season, and they were here this season. So it seems like they're starting to find it seems like they're starting to sort of creep really towards their not their potential. Sorry, oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for?
The window is opening. The window is opening.
Their full potential. They're really getting to their stride, and that's just not the case, gentlemen. This season, sorry about the brain cramp there, but this season, Vlad and Bo both just passed their 162nd game in Major League Baseball. So I get why you kind of think they've been here for a while, gentlemen, and to our friends at home watching it. We've seen nothing from either one of these guys yet. We've seen nothing from Kevin Biggio yet. We've seen nothing from Alejandro Kirk. We've seen nothing from Nate Pearson. There's a few guys, gentlemen, who are just getting started, and they're absolutely going to have built-in improvements going forward. Clark's already said, hey, imagine when we get 162 games from George Springer. I think next season's Blue Jays are going to be extremely bright. I'll look for Shapiro and Atkins to bring in the next Robbie Ray. Someone at a nice contract to bring in, maybe not the next Marcus Semien, because again, how well did that work out? And that wasn't a free contract. That was 1 year, $18 million. But I'll look for Shapiro and Atkins to do some things this offseason. I'm really looking, and it's something that you guys have touched on the SquadCast a couple times when we came with the trade deadline, where right now the Blue Jays this season, Blue Jays are looking to make trades to get into the wild card race. Can you imagine the natural progression of this team next season? The trade deadline is to solidify themselves as World Series contenders. You gentlemen have touched on that a few times. I've been right there with you. I think that Shapiro and Atkins are building something here that is sustainable for the first time in Toronto Blue Jay history. You gentlemen know I did not think the playoff window was opening this season. I always thought it was opening 2022. But what have I always said? Once it opens, it's open for 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. We've never been in better hands than Shapiro and Atkins, again, building something sustainable. So absolutely, next season, 81 games at the Rogers Center next season. How about a yes, please? Next season, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be a massively required to be reckoned with team. Honestly, gentlemen, we can start getting excited about it right now, and I'm not even kidding.
Now, we talked about, me and Max talked about maybe even sneaking out there for a game at the end of this season. So, Max, put it on your calendar. We're going to Toronto next year. We're doing it. Craig, if you want, we'll get you a ticket. You can come with us, and we'll open it up. We'll open it up to everybody else who wants to come to a game because we're going to do it. I'm just telling you right now, Max, put it in the budget. We're doing it.
Epic.
So I want to talk about budgets though for a second here, Clark. Before sticking with the off-season theme here. Obviously, again, Craig, it's like Clark said. Even though the intent maybe of the first couple questions of this interview or roundtable, so to speak, maybe didn't make us feel better, you always find a way to be able to make us have a little smile about what the future holds for this ball club. But in speaking to that future, did Rogers Communications, the guys that stroke the checks, did they see enough from this fan base, from this team, to say, you know what, maybe this is a period where we become the Dodgers, where we become the Yankees, where we become those perennial big hitting, big spending clubs in order to keep the band together, so to speak. We obviously saw Marcus Semien's comments. How could you not want to be a part of a winner? But the dollars obviously need to make sense for a guy who's coming off a historic season at second base. Is this a feasible thing? And I know we've talked about it before. Is it feasible that the Jays could look to spend with the big boys this offseason to keep this band together, to go out and potentially have a record-setting season from not just an individual standpoint like we saw from many this year, but as a team?
I fully get the skepticism. I'm right there with you, Jim. And one thing I want to say, one thing I would bring up here, Max and Clark, let's think about real quick Shapiro and Atkins. So Shapiro and Atkins are real comfy and cozy. I talk about them building something sustainable in Toronto. They've built something sustainable in Cleveland. The fruits of their labor are starting to come to fruition, and the Indians start to enter their playoff window.
Guardians.
Guardians.
You're talking about
yes, at the time it was Indian. No, real good. Hey, Clark. Real good catch. Thank you for that.
We're going to have to get used to that.
I apologize. Absolutely. The Guardians, the Guardians open their playoff window. Right as that playoff window opens, Rogers calls and says, hey, Mark Shapiro, you know how you went through all those lean years in Cleveland and built them up? Now your playoff window's opening and you're about to have, 5 to 8 seasons of a lot of fun, a lot of success. Never mind the fun and success. How'd you like to come to Toronto and do all that rebuilding all over again? Well, there's no way, gentlemen, no way on God's green earth that Shapiro and Atkins agreed to that, right as the fruits of their labor in Cleveland were opening, unless they had assurance from Rogers that early on, it may be a budget that you're similar to with Toronto Blue Jay baseball, but Shapiro and Atkins, you guys build what you built in Cleveland, and when the time is right, you will see you've got our checkbook. And we've already seen Hyunjin Ryu 4 years, $80 million recently, George Springer 5 years, $150 million. So I don't even think I'm grasping at straws here, gentlemen. I think there's actual precedents being set that Rogers is stepping up to the plate and looking to sign and looking to cut those contracts. How could they not see 2015 and 2016, you couldn't walk anywhere in Toronto without the Rogers ads everywhere. Like, how could they not see how good, how incredible that was for business? So I really think that the Rogers will be looking to strike while the iron is hot. Blue Jays back in Toronto, all the club, all the press and excitement about it. I do think, gentlemen, believe it or not, I think we're going to see Rogers spend this offseason.
I'm thinking about getting a part-time job at one of those kiosks just to sell cell phone contracts. If it means that Marcus Semion's coming back, I'll set a quota. It'll be 200 cell phones a month, whatever it costs, whatever it is, doesn't matter. If it gets Marcus Semien back, I'm willing to commit. I'm all in. That's the slogan for next year. I'm all in.
So Craig, we talk about the future, and I can't talk about the future with you without talking about some of the young guns, if you want to call them that. Max's favorite prospect of all time, Gabriel Moreno, is coming up right away. Orelvis Martinez is coming up. I know he's real young, but he's still coming up. Jordan Groshans, we can go over the list. Could you see any of these guys cracking a roster next year, or is it still maybe a little bit of ways away for those guys? Because I was talking to somebody recently about the Robbie Ray, Marcus Semien debate, because that's going to be the debate until it happens. Until something happens with that, it's going to be the debate of the offseason. I keep saying summer. So I said that Robbie Ray is probably more important because typically middle infielders, there's a lot of them, and we have quite a few in the system. But are they close enough to say, you know what, let's go hard on Ray and let Semien walk because we can replace him internally? Or is there maybe some options out there that we would have to look at to replace Marcus Semien is what I'm trying to get at.
No, great question. Well, as far as Ray's concerned, the Blue Jays are in a really unique scenario here. Now, the comparison for Ray is Zach Wheeler. He was entering his free agency about a year and a half ago at 29. He got 5 years, $118 million. Now, he was not coming off a Cy Young season like we certainly think Robbie Ray is going to be coming. So you got to figure Ray's at least at 5 years, $125 million, $25 million a year. The Blue Jays are the only team in a really unique position where they could mentally absorb that by saying, listen, you know what, for us, it's not 5 years, $125 million. Actually, if we sign that contract with Robbie Ray, it's actually 6 years, $133 million. Now, back to math for the third time in the appearance, gentlemen, back to math. That's about 21. That's closer to $22 million a year. Could that be palatable for the Blue Jays? So can the Blue Jays even play mentally with as far as how are they going to mentally absorb that contract for Robbie Ray? Because there's not going to be a hometown discount, guys. That I can tell you. There will not be a hometown discount for either one of these gentlemen. So I think the Jays are in a unique position in the pursuit of Robbie Ray. For Semien, boy, you called it, Clark. I mean, how are you just going to replace this guy? The Blue Jays have more middle infielders coming up through the system than any team I've seen in baseball. Not just in Blue Jay history. I'm talking about any team I've ever seen in baseball. So it's not like the Blue Jays are just going to sign all autograph a Blue Jay had. They're all going to sign it and then just sit it at the second base spot. Like, they're going to replace Semien if they lose Semien. Will they get that production? Boy, I think there's a lot of added production built into this roster, gentlemen. That's why I'm not as concerned with the Semien. And I grew to love him. Vlad is going to pick it up. Bo is going to pick it up. Lourdes was off and on this season. Kirk was off and on this season. There's so many guys. Springer a full season. There's so many ways that you can replace what you're losing with Marcus Semien. And again, I don't want to belittle it, but there's ways to replace that. I don't know that there's ways to replace a left-handed killer Cy Young in Robbie Ray.
So with that in mind, and next up, we have Dante Dicario coming on. He's the voice of the Regina Pats. I think he's in the waiting room. So Dante, hang tight. We're going to give Craig one more question here. Max, if you're okay with that, if you don't mind, I'll take this one.
I got one. I just requested to ask to take it from you.
Oh, did you request? I'm sorry.
I did request.
Well,
and just a quick point, Craig. I don't know if you noticed, this might have been the quickest math degree that you've ever earned, to be a professor, Craig Ballard, with
Craig Ballard
three math, I guess we'll call it a 3-year degree with 3 scorching hot math takes. And speaking about scorching hot, you warned us earlier on Twitter. I would like you to go scorched earth now with your comments. as to why the Jays should pursue a potential reunion with Marcus Stroman, or do they not? Go.
No, I'm way on the other side of that one, gentlemen. I wouldn't have any interest if I was the Toronto Blue Jays and Marcus Stroman. When you're looking at what Marcus Stroman, the player, brings to the table, first of all, the Blue Jays cupboard isn't bare for that. Manoah, Barrios, like a killer righty with good moon. First of all, that cupboard isn't bare. But second of all, wouldn't we have to acknowledge Stroman's still a good pitcher? I honestly think we would have to acknowledge it. I'm just saying he doesn't really check off a box that's missing for the Blue Jays. That's on the field. The issue with Marcus Stroman, as we know, is off the field. I've never seen a player be so vocal in their criticism of management, their own management, by the way, their own management at that time. And earlier in the offseason, you remember a tweet that he's since deleted when he talked about what a waste it is for Vlad and all these great players in Toronto. Toronto will never spend, they will never support their team like that. So again, talking about that management, think about, we get it all the time, gentlemen. We see it all the time. The comparisons of the 2021 Blue Jays to that 15 and 16 team. The biggest difference, look at the All-Star game that the 4 Blue Jays in 2021 went to. Everybody was all over them. They were loved by everybody. That's what's happening with this team. The 15 and 16 Blue Jays were hated across baseball. Thought Donaldson was a jerk. Thought Bautista was a jerk. Thought Stroman was a jerk. And the actual ins and outs of the clubhouse itself, we know Randall Grichich is not welcoming Marcus Stroman back. Like, there are literally Blue Jays in the clubhouse right now, literally, that would not welcome him back into that clubhouse. So think of what's being built here. You've got Vlad, Bo, you've got outstanding, even though it's young, you've got outstanding leadership. This is an outstanding clubhouse and culture that has been built here in Toronto. I do not want Marcus Stroman. If we desperately needed a righty, man, I might have to consider it, but I would still have those concerns. And the truth is, I just don't think the Blue Jays need a righty in that rotation right now to bring on all the baggage that Marcus Stroman brings to the table. And gentlemen, you guys already know, Stroman has brought this on himself.
Yeah. And I mean, just bring back our boy Ross Stripling, right? I'd rather have Ross Stripling on this team than Marcus Stroman, to be honest. And
friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show. Craig, we have to let you go, but this isn't the last time. We're bringing you back for a 5-time.
I'm King Kong Bundy. Yeah. 5. I want 5.
5 times.
Yes,
I was going to say, yeah. So we'll bring you back because we have a lot of off-season topics to get to. We barely scratched the surface. But Craig, thank you. Every time you come on here, we learn something new. So
and Craig,
appreciate
before
that.
we go, as the postseason begins, sorry to cut you off, Clark.
Oh, yeah, no.
Who is your World Series winner tonight as the wild card game kicks off in the American League?
All season long, I mean, how can I come off San Fran? Because they just keep surprising us and they keep winning. I'll tell you that I know Max approves of that, so I can't come off San Fran. I'm cheering for, and I thought before Devin Williams, that idiot, awesome reliever from Milwaukee, in the celebration, he punched the wall and broke his. He's out now. So I thought Milwaukee was going to go to the World Series prior to that. Hopefully that's not a huge loss. But gentlemen, I really like that Milwaukee Brewers team. For Max's sake, go Giants, go, right? Why not? Max is the best. Why not?
I love it.
Perfect. Greg, we'll talk to you again soon. Stay well, my friend, and we will catch up throughout the off season.
Thank you, gentlemen. Again, loving the new looks, loving the new everything, gentlemen. You two are the same, so we still got the great hosts, but everything else looks great. All the new stuff looks great. Loving it, gentlemen.
Thanks a ton for the kind words, Craig.
I think we owe Craig a hat and or a shirt when we get our new merch. So
he doesn't need a hat. Look at the man. Look at his
you're right.
Thanks, Craig. We'll chat soon,
right,
my
Craig,
friend.
Talk again. Yeah. All right, Max, without any further ado, do we want to bring in our next guest and get it rolling?
Crazy not to. He's been patiently waiting. Thank you very much, Dante. Let's kick things off with a bang here.
All right, Dante, thanks for coming in here. Dante is live on the ground in Winnipeg ahead of their matchup against the Winnipeg Ice. Dante, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm currently in the parking lot just right after we just got off the bus, so hopefully, unfortunately, I'm not in the hotel. You guys can't see me, but happy to be here.
I was gonna say I've seen you in better lighting, but it's okay. We're good. We got you. We can hear you.
We've had Nick Alberga on the show, and it was significantly worse still.
Yeah, Sportsnet's Nick Alberga joined us from the pits of hell because there was no light whatsoever that day. But either way, Dante, you're in Winnipeg. The Pats kicked off their season last weekend, and we're going to get into some hockey with you. But I got to get into your personal story first because we've been talking a lot of Blue Jays right now. And I know you have a little bit of a history with the Blue Jays. So can you tell our viewers, and again, welcome to Regina, because you're here now. You're the voice of the Regina Pats. But give us a little bit of a background on kind of how you got here.
Sorry, the lights just turned off here.
Oh, there you go. That's okay.
Yeah, so Yeah, so I was actually like smiling and listening to your Blue Jays talk, just hearing you guys talk about Marcus Stroman. I will say one thing first. I do not think the Toronto Blue Jays should sign Marcus Stroman. I am not a Marcus Stroman guy. I'm not going to get into reasons why. Baseball is definitely, my first love, but I do love hockey as well, and I think I do hockey pretty well. I worked for the Toronto Blue Jays back in 2017 as a baseball media intern when I was 19. That was fun. Unfortunately, the team wasn't very good, but I did have the opportunity to meet guys like Marcus Stroman and Aaron Sanchez, and you mentioned the jerks like Donaldson and Bautista. Although, maybe around baseball they were known as that, but I thought Donaldson was actually a really good guy, based off what people told me in my interactions with him. Very little interactions with him in the clubhouse. But my highlight of my baseball career was definitely being the Class A number 2 broadcaster for the Lansing Lugnuts. Kevin Smith, who was on that team, made his debut this year with the Toronto Blue Jays. Smith tore it up that year with the Lugnuts. Ty Tice got called up. He was on that team. Not too many big names from that team. I think one guy who could surprise some people and could maybe be a mainstay or on maybe the Blue Jays or another MLB organization could be Samad Taylor, who was our second baseman that year, and he tore it up in AA this season. Chavez Young is a top prospect that could, maybe find his way as a 4th or 5th outfielder in the Toronto Blue Jays, outfield, alignment. So we had a good team that year, but no big time prospects, that's for sure.
Tell you what, Dante, sorry, Clark, to cut you off. My apologies. The StreamYard, we're not totally in sync quite yet, but I just have to say the Lansing Lugnuts, probably one of my favorite minor league baseball logos in all of minor league baseball. So it's very interesting that you had that perspective there. I just had to throw that in there as one of my faves.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
minor league baseball.
Great organization, great ballpark.
Yeah. Great hats and great logos.
Oh, everything. Dante, tell me about your relationship with Jerry Howarth, because my understanding is you got pretty close to him from a professional standpoint. So tell me about Jerry, because he's one of the greats.
No, Clark, on it, not just a professional standpoint. We are very close friends. Me and Jerry Howarth. Jerry Howarth is I consider him like second grandfather to me. He was one of my references for the Regina Pat's job, if not my number one reference. A lot of people would joke over the years that he was kind of like my biggest fan, but also kind of like an agent for me. He was always willing to reach out to teams for me and vouch for me and say that I had a lot of talent and I was going far and in a big work ethic and I hopefully that the fans see that here in Regina. But we met 2017. He would always come into the communications office, and he was obviously very close with guys like Jay Stenhouse and Mal Romanen and the likes of others in that office that had been there for a long time before, unfortunately, they were let go a couple of years ago when the new management came in. I got to know Jerry, and he was a huge mentor for me. I was calling a semi-pro baseball team while I was interning with the Jays just to stay hot on the mic because I wanted to continue broadcasting, and that was something that Jerry recommended if I wanted to make it far. I told Jerry at the start of the year that after my internship with the Jays, I wanted to move on to do professional baseball at the minor league level, and we worked towards that. But the one thing I loved about Jerry and why we just kind of connected so quick was the fact that he was honest. I remember the first time he listened to my tape, I was still a teenager, and he told me it wasn't good and I had a lot of work to do. And, I didn't take that as a slight. I didn't put my head down and pout. I went down and got to work, and I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him. And, he still emails me. He still Facebook's messaged me. He doesn't have a cell phone. He's pretty old fashioned, old school. He does have an iPad though. So that's how he emails me, but we keep in touch consistently. I know he emailed me right after my first home opener broadcast on this Saturday, and we went back and forth. And my mom messaged with him a little bit too on Facebook. So yeah, very close with Jerry, and he's been a fantastic supporter for me in my career.
Not a bad reference to have, I would say, and I think that's pretty awesome. Next time you talk to him, tell him we say hi from the SquadCast. Now, Dante, you mentioned the Pats. You got here a couple of months ago. It's been kind of a whirlwind. I've seen some behind the scenes stuff with the team, just doing my third party help with you guys. And but overall, you got 2 wins under your belt to start the season. We're all done the preseason now. The games matter. And what a way to come into your first year with the Regina Pats with the roster that they have right now. And it goes beyond. Now, I will say this for anybody watching. who thinks that, it's all about Bedard this year. There is quite a good player amount of players on this team that need not be overlooked. So Dante, maybe talk to us a little bit about the first two games and kind of the outlook of this roster.
Well, I want to piggyback off your comment about how it's not just about Bedard. There's a lot of depth on this roster, and I think Saturday was a prime example of that. Of course, Friday, Bedard with the 2 goals. He was, first star of the game, really the focal point in that hockey game outside of Matthew Keeper, who was very good in that 3-1 win in Prince Albert. And then the next day, the back half of that home against the Prince Albert Raiders, a team that, got Ozzy Weisblatt back in the lineup. He's a first-round pick of the San Jose Sharks. And he scored a goal in that hockey game, but they had Evan Herman shadowing Bedard. If not 1 or 2 Prince Albert Raiders were shadowing Bedard the whole game. And so since they were so focused on Connor, the rest of the team just kind of took off. Connor did score a goal, the late goal, the 5th goal at the end of the game, but he had a little bit of a tough time on Saturday, given that they had 2 guys on him all game. Of course, he's 16 years old. When you have 2 guys on you, you're going to have a tough night. But that really opened things up for guys like Cole Caria and Sloan Stanek, who had a career-high 3 points. Stanek with his first 2-goal game of the season. Those are 2 guys that I really was impressed with in the preseason. Carrier's, from talking to him this week, says he's built a lot of confidence in the preseason, scoring 5 goals in 6 games and 7 points, now going into the regular season, and he's picked up exactly where he left off. Even if you look at, this team on the back end, they're very talented up front. They have some depth on the back end with, a guy, big, steady defenseman like Luke Bateman, and then you look at, Leighton Feist, who'd potentially come into his own this season. Last year, 9 points in 20 games as a 16-year-old, now in his 17-year-old season. And then, of course, you can't forget about the 2 drafted players, the only 2 drafted players on the roster, and Stanislas Volzel, 3rd-round pick of the Blue Jackets. And then, of course, Riker Evans, who was a 2nd-round pick of the Seattle Kraken. And both of them are a point a game to start the season from the back end. So you have those 2 big mobile defensemen. You had a 3rd mobile defenseman in Feist, and then you kind of mix in a Cadu or a Johnson or a Bateman or a Parker Berg in and out of the lineup. A Tom Cadu. Like I said, a lot of depth on the back end. That's the one thing I like about this team the most is their back end. But I also like Dave Struch has done a really good job. I think he has everybody on the same page. They're young, they're ready. They have 20 players returning from last year's roster. Sorry to kind of go off on a tangent here, but so
fine.
far it's been the depth. Yeah, no, Clark, the depth is, you've seen it. The depth has been, on full display through the first 2 games. Wednesday's going to be a real test against Winnipeg. Of course, they're loaded. They have, some already players that are on NHL radars, guys that are already drafted to the NHL, 2 World Junior Team Canada camp invites. So it's going to be a definitely a big test. And they have their starting goaltender back from the Anaheim Ducks.
Max, you go ahead. You got one?
Yeah, for sure. So Dante, I guess obviously it's been a short amount of time that you've been in the Queen City and ingrained in the hockey culture of Regina, Saskatchewan. What are your early impressions of Regina overall? I know that obviously with the landscape that we've got in a COVID-19 world, it's a little tough to maybe see the full out effects of what hockey fandom can be in this town. But what are your early impressions of Regina, Saskatchewan so far? Obviously, with your professional experience ranging quite a wide range.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 4th city that I've lived in. So I grew up, born and raised in Ottawa, lived in Toronto, lived in Lansing, Michigan, and I lived in Powell River, British Columbia. Now, in terms of, how beautiful, out of the most beautiful city that I've lived in terms of, the mountains and the ocean and stuff like that, was definitely Powell River. But in terms of just a fantastic hockey community, I think Regina is the top one. I mean, this is definitely the biggest market that I've had the opportunity to broadcast in. And I love it. I love the fans. I love how they expect greatness from our players, but also from me. It's not added pressure for me. I like the expectations. I like to set the bar high because obviously my goal is to eventually be in the NHL one day and hopefully I can get there. And I think this is a big step for me. So I think that so far, just as a hockey community, this is the perfect place for me. I love it. As for the city itself, looking at places to apply this summer, looking to get into the WHL, Regina was the number 1 place for me just because it's a bigger city. I didn't want to go back to a little town like Powell River of 10,000 people. I wanted to go to a bigger city of 200,000+ people, and that's why Regina really attracted me. You have all the amenities. There's definitely lots of things to do. I went to Wascana Trails, and I'm a big hiker. I like being outdoors and stuff like that. So I went there, did some biking. And then, I've done some biking in town. There's some nice bike paths, and I'm living out in the greens, so it's pretty close to malls. Like when I was living in Powell River, the one thing that I didn't like in a small town the most was the fact that you had to order everything on Amazon and stuff like that. Like here, living in a big city, there's so much more. And I like that. I like being in a much larger city, although it feels like a small community as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's a small community that is definitely on a larger scale. Now, Dante, Regina, speaking of the hockey community, hasn't seen a super competitive team since this year, where they hosted the Memorial Cup, of course, and for obvious reasons, they loaded up, and it was a pretty exciting couple of years here in Regina. Obviously, Dave Struch has been here since that time. He's taken over now as the kind of the full head coach. John Paddock was here, and they kind of did that transition. What I'm trying to get to is now they're 2-0 to start the season. You got a big game coming up against Winnipeg. Tell me about the outlook of this division as a whole, because it's kind of taken a big change in the last couple of seasons, especially with Winnipeg coming into it and Swift Current leaving it, going to the Central Division. So how are you thinking this division is looking right now and how it might kind of play out?
Well, I can only really speak off the teams that I've seen. And I've seen Winnipeg, I've seen Moose Jaw, and I've seen Prince Albert, and obviously I've seen Regina. And out of those teams, I think it's going to be a tight race. I think Winnipeg is probably the best team out of the four that I just listed off. But I do think that Moose Jaw is going to be really good this year. Brady Yager is, well, from talking to James Gallo, their broadcaster, says Yager's the McKinnon and Connor Bedard is the Connor McDavid. That's how he kind of puts them 1 and 2 beside each other. And they were drafted 2 picks apart in the 2020, Bantam draft, right? So those are 2 very talented players. Moose Jaw is also built very strong. I think they have 5 or 6 players already drafted by NHL clubs. So that's going to be exciting. The Pats and Warriors see each other 10 times this season, and they'll play each other Friday. So that's going to be a test. And then we'll see what Brandon brings to town on Sunday. Like I said, I can't really speak on Brandon because I haven't seen them yet, but I can't speak on those 4 teams. I do like Prince Albert if they can get Caden Gooley back, if they can get Jones or Allen, back from the Chicago Blackhawks. So if they can get those 2 guys back with Ozzy Wise back and maybe, get their Belarus goaltender finally in and then add another import, then they should probably compete. I don't think that they'll be better than the Pats. I do like their physicality. I do like, their depth defensively if they can add Gooley and Allen on the back end. So it's going to be interesting. I think looking at it, I think Regina's number 2. I think that Regina will finish second in the East Division behind the Winnipeg Ice. And then I think Moose Jaw and Prince Albert will kind of follow suit 3rd and 4th.
I love it. It's going to be an exciting year because, like I said, there's been a lot of shifting going on the last couple seasons. We see some powerhouses not quite where they were. We see some of those kind of rebuilding teams getting to the point now where they're pushing for playoff spots. So it's going to be a fun year. Dante, what did they feed you tonight? Because I know I think they just had supper. What'd you guys get tonight?
Well, we went to this place called, what is it, Frankie's?
Frankie's.
Yeah, so it was another Italian restaurant, and I'm Italian,
of course.
And my mom was just in town, thank God. So we were able to whip up some nice stuff here and there. But no, a lot of Italian restaurants, but nothing beats home cooking. So sometimes I feel it's a little bit of a sin in just for me, just because I'm so used to, everything homemade pasta, and now we're eating all the pasta on the road and stuff like that. And Strucci's always like, how does it compare? Or Greg or Trader's like, how does it compare? I go, nah, but no, I mean, listen, it's good food. Yeah, it's good food. So,
all right.
No, just meeting up with my friend here in Winnipeg as well. So
when your mom's back in town, invite us over. We want to try some home cooking from your mom. So I'm looking forward to that already.
Absolutely. Listen, I moved here a month. I still have all the tomato sauce I brought. We make homemade sauce in Ottawa. So I brought it all. Perfect. So maybe I can whip something up for you guys.
Awesome. We're looking forward to that. Now we're going to have to hear from some of our Winnipeg viewers because I see that John Ohm is checking in the comments about how good Frankie's is because I'm very curious to see what they think about that. But overall, Dante, we're going to let you go because I know you're with a buddy and we want to let you have a good evening here before the big game tomorrow. Enjoy the next couple of days because I know there's a few games coming up, and we'll do this again throughout the season because I want to kind of get in touch with you maybe after you've seen more of the teams and we can have a good conversation then. But anyways,
100%, man. Well, always happy to come on.
Perfect.
Thanks a ton, Dante.
We'll chat soon.
See you guys.
All right. There you go. How about that? Now
that's
that
awesome,
got me
man.
excited.
That
And
Jerry Howarth story. Wow. Just the
Oh.
relationship there. As you alluded to earlier, Clark, I know that again, our fandom, it's funny. I sometimes forget I'm 27 and you're like, I don't know, nearing the back end of your prime of career and being like 30 years old and stuff. But, but no, Jerry Howarth, I'm going to have to go YouTube down the rabbit hole and look up some highlights of some calls. And obviously Dante speaks very highly of him and how integral he was to just the game day production side for the Toronto Blue Jays for so many years. So that's that incredible story and a guy that is going to do really well with his shot here in Regina. So that's great.
I agree. Yeah, you're going to want to get on that Jerry Howarth stuff because he's awesome for sure. So Max, I guess it's kind of free and clear now for the rest of the road here. What do you want to get into? We wanted to talk about Robin Lehner earlier. We didn't get to.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to talk about Brady Tkachuk earlier. We didn't get to. We have our NFL picks to make for the week, which I have to pull up a schedule for.
Yes.
But what do you want to get to first? Because we have some time here. It's kind of our show the rest of the way. I know it's usually our show,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the Robin Lehner, I guess, headlines that came out of this weekend. Obviously, Sunday it was a bit of a we'll just say it on the After Dark episode, not being in the studio. It was a bit of a shitstorm on Sunday on Twitter with some of the tweets that Robin Lehner put out to the hockey world. And I know that hockey Twitter was kind of set ablaze on a very, very touchy subject, one that I'm certainly not going to pretend to be an expert on. I'm sure that you probably echo that sentiment. But again, if you have opinions, please feel free to fire away. I think the biggest thing to take away from this, and I was listening to now 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick, a very good episode, and they're fantastic at relaying the information and eloquently putting out touchy subject matter and finding a way to communicate it very, very properly. And I think the biggest sentiment was this started with Jack Eichel. Robin Lehner was obviously part of the Buffalo Sabres organization kind of right when Jack Eichel was coming in to be the franchise turner, the cornerstone piece that the Pagulas, the ownership group there, figured was going to be game-changing for that organization. And the mistreatment of Jack Eichel is you're starting to see a ripple effect of players start to question, well, what if that happens to me? And I think it's not from a selfish standpoint that they do that, but it's more of a, you know what, this is happening to Jack, a premier talent in our league, and it's not right. It's not okay. And I think that this is where, again, just part of the conversation that he started on Twitter came from, but it was the early parts of it that I guess for Robin Lehner, he'd had enough. He obviously has a past where he has been outspoken about, I don't want to say outspoken, he's spoken up about things of mental health, being an advocate and an ally for people that go through struggles in day-to-day lives that we all go through. And when it comes to Robin Lehner, I don't think that there's maybe a better advocate in the league considering what he's gone through to speak on certain things. Now, can you do it a little bit differently than going on Twitter and doing so? The NHL, I think, would have preferred him to do so. But I think the best analogy that I can put on it is every professional sports league has monsters in the closet. And unfortunately, those monsters don't really come out until you shine a light on them. And Robin Lehner certainly shined a light on this one. And again, a situation that I will repeat myself, I'm not the most educated person on, so I don't want to speak too greatly to it. But I think ultimately the quote that comes out from Robin Lehner that means the most in this situation is he doesn't want to burn this down, meaning the NHL. He wants to see and help be a creator of change to create a healthier, happier National Hockey League, which is a league that we're all incredibly passionate about. All of our fanalists here, yourself, myself, the roots of why this show started was our hockey fandom. And to see a better league, our favorite player was knocked out of the league early in his career due to concussion issues and things of that nature, where it's obviously people find different ways to cope with different substances and things of that nature. But again, this was a very, very heavy topic to digest on a Sunday, and one that we certainly haven't seen the last of. But when it comes to Robin Lehner and his comments, it was about time, and the way that it was articulated maybe could have been done differently. However, it was done the way that it's done, and now it's out there. So let's see some change.
So John Ohm is commenting, and I agree with John Ohm, and I understand what he's saying. He says, as Bettman said, contact us first before using Twitter to express your opinions. He has an open door policy. That's what Bettman was saying. And I will see your Robin Lehner and raise you an Akeem Aliu. So what I saw and kind of what drove this home for me was, I thought, maybe Lehner could have done this a bit more, back, private room. Let's have a conversation and figure this out, because this is what I've heard. Can we make this better? Akeem Aliu came out and retweeted all of the stuff that Lehner is saying. And he said, hey, listen, I tried that way. I tried to go the, talking to Bettman first way. 2 years later, I'm still waiting for an answer. He hasn't gotten any changes. Nothing has gotten resolved in his storyline. Obviously, he's made a massive change. Akeem Aliu, I'm talking about. There's a lot of changes that have come because of what he did, but that's after he spoke out in the public. And that's when it changed. There wasn't change before that happened. He tried going the other way. Nothing happened. Then he spoke out. Stuff happened. What people need to understand with the NHL, I think, and like you said, most sports leagues, is that there is some stuff that goes on behind the doors that people don't want to know about. This is what we saw with the Chicago Blackhawks situation. And again, we're getting all sorts of stuff out on the open here that we haven't talked a ton about on the show, because we typically, we don't necessarily go into it all the time. But the Chicago Blackhawks stuff, that stuff was swept under the rug, and years later, there's people suffering from it for years. Exactly. And what John Ohm is saying, don't get me wrong, I feel his frustration. And I think, John, we're not arguing. I think we're agreeing that basically what he's trying to do is alert people that, listen, there's some stuff going on here that we don't necessarily like. And we want to make sure everybody knows about this so that maybe it changes. And I think there is power in today's world with social media and making stuff happen faster than it used to. And I think there's a certain, group of generation that maybe that isn't used to how quick that happens. I know that I think there's a lot of we need to go through processes, and that's the old way of doing it. And nowadays, and this is younger than me, this is younger than you. But people in this generation that are coming up don't want to wait. And we're talking about Nolan Patrick, who's a 23-year-old kid, and he doesn't want to wait for results. He wants to let everybody know about it now and get it done. Like, he wants this changed. And Robin Lehner used his platform to, I think, honestly, I think he kind of spoke for Nolan Patrick a little bit, because I feel like Nolan Patrick maybe was asking some questions and wasn't getting the answers that he was hoping for. And Robin Lehner saw this as an injustice. So I'm going to sit here right as of today and kind of applaud Robin Lehner for his efforts in this. And again, I think it's just the generation that we're in where waiting for the processes to take place isn't the way that it happens anymore. And it's going to take some time to get used to that. But that's just kind of this, I think it's the generation that we're living in.
And what's the reputation of hockey players, right? It's the guys that, we don't say nothing. We put our hard hats on and we go to work every day. The times are changing. And I think it's one of those things where, as you alluded to perfectly, Clark, right? The power of social media and the tool that it can be used to do. Of course, Gary Bettman and the league offices are going to be saying what they need to say from a political correctness standpoint. There's PR departments to make sure that they write those statements and things of that nature. But again, as you alluded to, right, things don't get done until they're shone in the public eye. And all of a sudden your stockholders are taking a hit, right? And that's where, again, Robin Lehner is clearly fearless in his initiatives, which is a very, very strong thing to possess as a human being, not just an NHL hockey player, goaltender, but just as a person in general, to stand up for what you believe in, to use your platform for the greater good. And I think ultimately the greater good of the league and the players that he skates with every single day will hopefully see positive changes. The one thing I did see that came from it is he did have a discussion with the National Hockey League. And I guess it went quite well. The details of that meeting obviously will remain behind closed doors. But again, I guess we'll see what the meaningful change is going to be as a result of these actions. So as you alluded to, I got nothing to say but good things about Robin Lehner. And just at the end of the day, it's let's see some change. As he said, he doesn't want to burn it down. He wants to see change.
And I think just to put a bow on this, we've seen, we don't even need to name names here, Max, because everybody's heard the names that have been involved in this. But we've seen a number of guys in the NHL come out of the NHL, I should say, in the last, I'm going to say decade, with addictions issues. And this is just one of those issues where now now there's this, storyline that they're giving these drugs that they aren't necessarily telling them what they are or what they might have, what they might be capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't all come together in the best light. So we'll leave it at that, because I think that's enough on that topic. I think we covered it pretty well. Let's look back on the ice here a little bit, because an interesting thing happened today, Max. Kind of made me go like this a little bit. In my fantasy hockey league, now I don't want to talk fantasy hockey necessarily.
Nobody cares about your fantasy hockey team, Clark.
not one person, and I get that. But Brady Tkachuk got dropped in one of my leagues today. Dropped. Ooh. And it's a long-term keeper league, so I had to like look at it for a good couple of minutes, mm-hmm. and I was
before you promptly picked him up.
Before I put a waiver claim in immediately, yes. Now, it turns out the guy was trying to find a loophole, and there's a long story. It doesn't matter. But what I'm getting at is he doesn't have a contract, and the season's literally around the corner. And, there's reports now, Chris Johnston, who has he been in the news lately. I'd love to try to get him on the show, but I don't know if he has any time because like he's on everything now. But man, he came out with a report today that, the Senators might have to start getting ready to not have this guy on their roster. And I know you hate when I do this, Max, but as a Leafs fan,
oh boy,
I'm used to this, because we just saw this, a couple of years ago with William Nylander. We had to wait until December to get that guy on the roster. And the Senators are looking at that potentially with Brady Tkachuk, who, for argument's sake, he's more important for the Senators than William Nylander is for Leafs, arguably, but probably. So, Max, I don't know. Tell me what you think. Are the Senators making a bad mistake here by doing this?
I think at the end of the day, right, it's context is important here, right? And I think we talked about a little bit earlier with the Elias Pettersson situation, right? Of, okay, these players, these young superstars, where again, we've seen the prime age of the league drop. It used to be from 27 to 30. Now you're looking at your prime years from about like 22, maybe even 21 to 25, 26.
Yeah. And I might argue that it's a little bit longer now too. Mm-hmm. I think just the way that these guys are training, it starts earlier, and I think it might even go till the same as it used to, 30, 31-ish, but it starts earlier, and those guys they're the guys now, those young guys. And again, I don't know if the last generation of management staffs were ready for that, because these guys have really made an impact, as I mentioned earlier with Pettersson. Anyway, sorry, Max, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no worries. And again, right, it's as you alluded to, right, it's amazing to see just the change that we have in the last, especially 5-6 years out of the draft. Really, I mean, since the days of Connor McDavid, we've really seen the shift of 18, 19-year-olds. There's talk of Cole Sillinger possibly making the Columbus Blue Jackets, and which is very, very exciting on all fronts, especially at a local level here. But again, it just goes to show the impact that young players have in this game when it comes to their contracts. Again, I love alluding to it because it probably is my favorite hockey podcast, but Jeff Merrick, Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts, talking about the ultra competitiveness of it's pretty good. It's not bad. It's got a few listeners. But talking about the ultra competitiveness of these players, these young superstars, and that they don't get to where they're at without having a competitive edge in every facet of their life. That means on the ice, in the weight room, and in contract negotiations. They want to earn more money than the next guy. And that's not necessarily a selfish thing, but it's a motivating factor, obviously, when you have the talent that you have and have the ability to touch the amount of lives that these players do. You want to see it be worth your while and to maximize your earning potential. Now, for Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators, we've talked about it many, many times. Eugene Melnyk isn't a guy that hands out dollars very, very often. And this is what's really cost Ottawa in terms of their superstars, right? Erik Karlsson, gone. Mark Stone, gone. Brady Tkachuk, who knows what's going to happen with him? It's a matter of, again, does Brady Tkachuk sign the 3 or 4 year deal, which the Senators don't necessarily want? They want some cost certainty on a longer term deal.
And they got it with Thomas Chabot, in fairness. Thomas Chabot, they got the 8 years.
100%.
But
Thomas Chabot's not their future captain either.
Well, he might have been for a second.
He was
in that conversation. But I agree. I think Brady Tkachuk's the guy. But I'm wondering, and I think you're alluding to this, but Ottawa, they have to want long, and I don't think Brady is in that situation. We've seen too many of the young guys now go with the 3 or 4 year, and I think the teams, like you said just a second ago, the teams want that long-term security, especially in a market like Ottawa, where guys don't necessarily want to go there every offseason. They're not the number one team on a lot of people's lists. So if they can lock these younger guys up, I think that's what they want.
Yeah, 100%. And we also forget that this kid's last name's Tkachuk. His dad's been through this. His brother's been through this. It's not going to be an easy negotiation right from the get-go. And Brady Tkachuk knows how valuable he is to the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators now need to determine, okay, how valuable is Brady Tkachuk to this franchise? And this posturing that Eugene Melnyk and the Ottawa Senators front office do, I mean, okay, it may save you a few dollars, but at what cost in terms of your fan base and creating trust there? That's where I'm not on board with this anymore, and I might get lit up by a certain TikTok user for this take. But
no, I don't think so. I think he'd agree with you on that.
But when it comes to these players and I guess the history that the Ottawa Senators have, unfortunately, it just hasn't been a good road with their homegrown superstars, right? They drafted Mark Stone. They drafted Erik Karlsson. They drafted Brady Tkachuk to be these franchise cornerstones. And if you're not going to pay them to be that, well, they're not going to be a part of your franchise for a long period of time. So I don't know if I'm looking at it and I want to throw a hot take out there. And if things aren't going as well as they say they're going, is Brady Tkachuk a guy that you look at offer sheeting? I know that we know that the percentages of that happening, maybe a little hot take Harry there, but if there's a team out there that is going to look at this and say, okay, well, you know what, if Ottawa doesn't want to pony up $10 million a year for this kid, or 9 or 8 or whatever it may be, let's give this kid an offer that blows him out of the water and find him being a franchise cornerstone for our team. I mean, again, we've talked about the percentages, the low end of that happening, especially at this time of the year, but it's time to hold Ottawa accountable a little bit here and force Eugene Melnyk to pull out that checkbook when it comes to his franchise cornerstones. Because again, you want a new downtown arena, you want a new this, you want a new that. But if you're Ottawa, what reason have you given the fan base to really trust that you are going to build this sustainable period of winning that hasn't been heard of before, that you put out in your rebuild statement 3-4 years ago?
The unprecedented success.
The unprecedented level of success. So
now,
that's
just to add to your little conspiracy of.
Sorry, I don't like Ottawa right now. I really don't.
To add to your conspiracy of an offer sheet. Wouldn't it be fun if the Arizona Coyotes just threw the kitchen sink at Ottawa and said, here you go? And that's, his dad played
the
there.
Keith Tkachuk angle. Yeah. He'd be wearing the Kachina again. Oh man, wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be something.
I like that. See, that's where the hot takes are fun to throw out sometimes, is, and that's a team that could conceivably do it, right? They're looking to find those players
they
that
just
would be
added
worth
48 draft picks.
Exactly.
they can.
They're going to be good eventually. If they're in Arizona or not, they're going to be good.
Exactly.
But it's a saga that we'll see the conclusion of it hopefully sooner rather than later.
Hopefully soon. I want to see this guy on the ice.
Hockey. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. The league, Canadian hockey, is better with a guy like Brady Tkachuk on the ice. 100%.
It's better. 100%. The league is better for it. Everything's better. We want to see Brady play games, not sit in a press box, or not even in the press box. He's not under contract. But before we move on to our NFL picks, which I believe is next, I just want to mention we are going to be doing this similar style setup format on, I think, we decide on Sunday morning, Mac? I don't have to do a Pats game Sunday night anymore. I don't know if you have
interesting.
Sunday night.
Sunday night, I have NFL football plan that I don't want to compete
with.
We
don't want to. Yeah,
we don't want to compete with the Bills and the Chiefs, because let's be honest, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen might be a little bit of a better draw than us.
Maybe. But we're going to be doing a big NHL preview. Now, if you saw our NHL playoff preview, we went deep. We went pretty deep on the
Clark,
NHL playoff preview.
Can you please tell the audience what the actual name of the show is going to be?
I'm going to let you do that. But again, if you saw, it's going to be similar to our NHL playoff preview. It's going to be similar to our extravaganza, which we had before the Kraken draft.
Jeez, our marketing department is good.
We went through every single team, broke the teams down, talked about who they might pick. That was a show. That was a show and a half.
That was an Avengers Endgame level performance there.
We're going to be doing a league-wide Sunday morning this weekend, Thanksgiving Day.
Grab your coffee, your pumpkin spice lattes, and let's talk some previews.
From 9 a.m. Mountain Time to about 11. We're going to try to cap it to 2 hours. But
my uncle has a saying, Clark. It's called "Trying leads to failure."
Right. Don't try. Do. So we're gonna do that. Now, Adam Schultz has been asking about this.
Yeah.
He's asked it a couple of times, and I want to address it. I don't know the full story here, but I kind of just, when he said it the first time, Adam, I went and just kind of checked. So I guess what happened, and I don't know if you know more about this, Max. Did you hear about this?
Is this extending back to last season? I feel like McDavid
No.
seems to always kind of have at least a once a year kind of thing where it's
Yes.
okay. I would like to set up my season to make sure I'm not having these dangerous situations that, again,
more or
kept me
less
off the ice.
similar.
So
anyways, they're playing the Flames, and I guess he was driving the net, but he was going wide, and Chris Tanev put his stick in between his legs, tripped him, and he flew into the net. And it's obviously dangerous for everybody if that happens. So basically his comments, and it's just kind of what you just alluded to, his comments essentially were, we don't want to see this happening. I don't want to fly into the goalie. The goalie doesn't want me flying into him. Tanev doesn't want me flying into anybody. So let's just stop doing this. And I think it's just the way he put his stick, the way he used his stick, I think, to try to stop the play is something that I guess it sounds like he's been trying to get addressed for a while. But I mean, at the same time, it's Connor McDavid. What are you supposed to do to stop this guy? He's impossible to stop. It looks like Max Ritz out there in the beer leagues, which you're starting up again, right?
Yes, sir.
But by the way, I totally dropped the ball. I forgot to bring your helmet today. Sorry.
That's okay.
Was that today?
No, I got to grab it by Thursday.
Okay,
Thursday puck drop,
helmet.
Season opener.
Grab that helmet. Anyways.
Guess who I'm playing for, Clark?
Oh, who are you playing for?
The Canadians.
Boo.
Sorry. Sorry.
Like, is it the jerseys and everything?
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to live with yourself. Like, just even not as even a Leafs fan. Just
my grandpa's favorite team, so there's some ties there.
That's fair. Who are you playing with? I know a lot of people watching probably won't have any idea, but who are you playing with?
Well, I'm playing with my dad, so that's a big motivating factor as to why I'm stepping back on the ice. Life's too short not to have those good experiences with your family. So get to catch some passes, some suicide passes from sorry, that's maybe a joke in bad taste, but some head down passes that maybe I should not receive from my dad on the blue line. That's going to be a fun time, and then
it's his group.
It's his group. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah. Little bit of an older group, which works for me because you know what? Let's be honest. I'm not in a contract year. I've lost a step or four. Is what it is. You could call me Joe Thornton out there. I've got the beard.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a different color. But yeah, I've lost a step or four. So it's just going to be fun to step back out on the ice and just really enjoy some quality time with my dad and guys that I have played hockey with in the past. So it'll be good.
The difference between you and Joe Thornton is Joe Thornton, you should see him in the documentary, man. He looks like a freaking inflatable, wacky inflatable arm flailing tube, man. He's got these big, massive, like individual leg, like oxygen inflatable things that go on his legs after the games, and he's in there every single game last season during that documentary, and it just looks ridiculous.
I would argue the other difference between me and Joe Thornton is about 1,700-ish points in the NHL. That might be the other thing. How many points does he have? He doesn't have 1,700. He's got to have 15.
He's one of the all-time leaders in all-time assists. I know that, but I don't know the exact number. But he's like
the technology. I need to look this up before I throw that out. Either way, it's a lot of points in the NHL that I just don't have.
He's top 3, I think, in all-time assists, if not even maybe higher than that.
1,529 points. That's a good career right there.
Not bad.
Say. Hey, he's a bona fide Hall of Famer, no?
Yeah. Oh, he has to be. He has to be.
Yeah.
Even though he hasn't won a cup, he has to be. And maybe he wins a cup with Florida this year. We'll get into that in the preview show on Sunday. Anyways, let's do our NFL picks, Max, because that is, I think, the last.
We got an over-under to hit that a couple of people aren't terribly confident in us in. I do want to say, Robin, you know what? I may have to take you up on that. I've driven a lot further to acquire Predators gear than that. So when it comes to signing up for that, I'm always on board with anything.
That sounds interesting. Now, I'm also a guy who hasn't skated in a while, so if we're going to make a road trip out of it, I think I have to strap him up too and maybe head out there with
I'll get the SquadCast helmet decals ready to roll.
Let's do it. Robin, you send the invite, you send us the details, you give us gas money and we'll be there.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple $100 for gas. You know what? Actually, just a limo out there. I don't want to tire myself out driving on the way. Can't guarantee any sort of point production out there. Yeah, exactly. We got to dial up Nickelback for at least 9 songs before we get there. Like it's just got to be a ready-made affair for sure.
A little Papa Roach maybe.
John Ohm, thank you very much for the comment. Hey, I do agree. I do have a nicer beer than Thornton. Thank you.
We were gonna do that, right? We were gonna do pump up song drafts. Yes,
that may be for when we're back at our home stadium for
so Myron's watching. Myron, just so you know, you've set off massive like chain of events in Max and I's brains of all these drafts that we could be doing. And Max's new one that he wants to do is a pump up song draft. So I think maybe next week we'll get into that, maybe the week after, but very soon we want to get into a pump up song draft. Yeah, I'll have to get back into. I'll have to open up Napster and see what comes up in my old Napster files from back.
Beers and Smokies. Oh, that also sounds good. Jalapeno cheddar, Uncle Robin. Jalapeno Ched Smokies.
Now we're talking.
Let's get a little heartburn going.
Picks. Now, Max, I forgot to check what your record was last week in Squad Select. Mine was 3-2.
We were both the same because my Rams decided to dud up.
Yes. We both had teams that were massively disappointing. You had the Titans that lost to the Jets. I had the Saints that lost to the Vikings. Giants. I think it was Giants. Yeah, the Giants. And by the way, Andy McNamara's question from last week, who's going to be the first team to win a game? I did not expect it to be the Giants. I did not expect it to be a Giants. But anyways, our battle game this week, since I think carryover, do I get to pick carryover because we pushed with 3-2 records this week? So is that still
because we both did? Because I had 5-0 the week previous. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so I'm going to be picking the first game and the battle game.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first game tonight. Let's get into that. My first pick of the evening is going to be. You had, oh man, there's some interesting matchups this week. This is a good week. I like this one. I'm going to go with my first one. I think the Titans are going to bounce back against the Jaguars. I'm going to go Titans over the Jaguars for my first pick. Are you taking notes of these, please?
Sure.
Or do you want me to? My laptop that I have the script open on, the keyboard is brutal. It's like an 11-year-old laptop.
Man, you bragged about your multi-laptop setup. You got your lighting. You got your hairspray.
Oh man, you should.
Nobody go to Clark's house with a lighter right now. Otherwise, his head's going. This hair
right now, I was not having any luck at all. But this laptop is great. But I don't have the script open on this laptop. It's this one, and it's my 11-year-old laptop I got when I went to school in California.
So you're afraid to touch it, and it might just spontaneously.
Well, the keyboard sucks. None of the letters work. So you just do that part, okay?
Okay, guys. So just show the comments, run the show, hit record, all that stuff.
You do everything.
Man, now I know how Jordan feels. This is tough.
This is tough. Yeah, Connor Anderson's checking in. Hey, Connor, it's been a minute. Thanks for joining us. John Holmes says Napster. Is that still a thing? No, but it pioneered everything. John. That's right. Anyways, you go ahead. Your first pick.
Oh, man. You know what? Like I said, there's some interesting matchups this week. It's not a lot of walks, though, right? So when it comes to the Jets and the Falcons, there's one to get up for. Yikes. 7:30 a.m. Are they going to be playing in London or something? Is that maybe
what?
Like the London game?
They very well could be playing overseas. Let me just double check that one. They would put the Jets and the Falcons overseas though, because nobody cares about that one this year.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, you know what? It
is in London. It is.
It is. That would make sense. When I saw the start time, I was like, that don't make a lot of sense. But anyways, it does now that it's overseas. So you don't make a living betting against Tom Brady. Obviously, the game on Sunday night wasn't exactly the walk that we thought it was going to be. But it was still a Tom Brady victory. And when it comes to the Miami Dolphins this week, I think he'll find a way. Traditionally, I think he hasn't exactly played all that well. But I want to say this game's at home for them. I believe, they're at Raymond James Stadium. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers over the Miami Dolphins.
It's a great pick. I really like that pick. I'm going to go back to the team that screwed me over last weekend.
Oh, the Atlanta Falcons, eh?
No, well, I might do that for my last pick again, but I'm going to go Cowboys over Giants. I think the Cowboys are playing really well right now. I think the Giants winning was a massive fluke. I still don't think they're all that great, and I think the Cowboys have a better chance to beat the Giants anyway. So I'm going to pick the
Cowboys. Well, you know what? I got to go with my boys here. This is a revenge game, obviously short rest on a Thursday night. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, I don't know. I don't know what the Seattle Seahawks are. They finally scored some points in the second half for the first time in a long time. But I think Matt Stafford's not going to lose 2 games in a row for the LA Rams this year. So I'm going to take my boys in the Thursday nighter and have a little bit even more reason. Oh, actually, you know what? I'll be on the ice. I'm going to be missing some of this game. So maybe that's a good thing for my sports fandom not to yell at the television all the time. So we'll do that. Keep a few extra years on the ticker.
Good stuff. I will go So this is where I picked 2. I'm gonna go over to Monday night. I'm gonna pick the Monday nighter. I'm gonna go Baltimore over Indianapolis. Baltimore at home. Indy's, they're struggling so far this year. They've had some really
coming off
bad
a W
health
though.
statuses. They are coming off a W. Yeah. But I'm gonna say Baltimore has it, especially at home and the big stage. I think they got this one. So I'm gonna go with Baltimore.
I like that pick. And you know what? Joe Burrow showed out. The Bengals are 3-1, but this is going to be a very interesting test for them.
Yes.
I got to go with Aaron Rodgers here. If you pick the best quarterback in each game, typically you're going to win most of those games. Joe Burrow is a burgeoning star in this league. Chad Isaac will be very happy to hear that. In terms of sharing that thought. I know he knows that very well. But when it comes to this week itself, I think the Bengals are going to come back down to earth a little bit. They barely handled the Jags 24-21. I think Aaron Rodgers might have his way with the old Orange Tiger Cats there.
Fair enough. I saw that game, but then I thought earlier today I was talking to Darren.
It's a trap game.
He was doing his power rankings, and I was like, the Bengals are 3-1. What is going on in this world? I'm going to go with the one on my schedule anyways. That's right below that one. I'm going to go Raiders at home over the Chicago Bears. I think that's a decent matchup. I know the Bears have some really good stuff going on their defense, but from what I understand, if I'm remembering this correctly, I think Akeem Hicks might be hurt, and he's kind of their big X factor on that defensive line. I shouldn't say he's the X factor because they have other guys too. Khalil Mack comes to mind. But they have a lot of guys. I don't love what their offense is doing right now. So I will go with Vegas at home over the Bears. Sorry, Jeremy Corrigan. Jeremy Corrigan's gonna be pissed that I did that one, but I got to do it.
You know what? This is going to be a tough one for my fourth and final pick here. I'm looking at a few games right now, but you know what?
There's
I have
a couple
to say
that are still decent matchups.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the danger. We talked about this. This is the danger with picking Sunday games on a Tuesday when it comes to injury status, this, that, and the other. I know George Kittle wasn't super healthy last week for the 49ers. I still don't know if Jimmy G is going to be playing for them this weekend. But man, the Arizona Cardinals, again, this is where Kyler Murray is. I have to give credit where credit's due. Tanner Ring, if you're tuned in, I will give your boys some credit here. The Arizona Cardinals, they might just be for real. Their rough spot might have been against the Minnesota Vikings in week 2, and they still found a way to win that game. So I'm looking at the schedule. I'm looking at Kyler Murray, and I'm saying, why not? Why not for Kyler Murray? So
fair. Okay, that's a bold pick. That's a real bold pick.
Yeah, division game. I got the entire NFC West covered for picks, so we'll see if it happens.
If your picks are all locked in, some of the other matchups this week, the Jets are playing the Falcons in London. The Patriots against the Texans. I thought you might go Patriots over Texans in that one.
I like the way they played this week.
Yeah, Lions versus the Vikings. I don't want to touch that game at all. The Eagles, Panthers. Now, again, the Panthers with Christian McCaffrey, that might be a walk in the park, but without him, who knows? Chuba Hubbard, I love the guy. I'm excited to see him continue to get some experience under his belt. Saints, Washington. The Saints have screwed me too many times this year, and Washington, every time I pick against them, they win.
They find a way.
So I just left that one alone.
They're your nemesis, yes, sir.
A couple interesting matchups. Anyways, our battle game this week is the Bills and the Chiefs. Now that's a big Sunday night game.
Very happy not to pick this one. I'm very happy to defer on the coin toss.
You're going to defer, yeah. So the Chiefs are at home. They're coming off a win. They're 2-2. I think a lot of people expected them to not be 2-2. But the Bills, they're the Bills, man. Like, they're pretty good. I'm having a really hard time picking against the Chiefs at home under the big lights. So I'm just gonna go with the Chiefs at home. I'm gonna take the home team on this one. Patrick Mahomes. I think the Bills are gonna really give him a good test, and I really hope that this game is like one of those ones where it's like 31-28 or something like that, and it's really close, comes down to the last play. But I'm gonna go with Mahomes and the Chiefs on this one.
Well, and maybe a little
hope and pray.
Yeah, maybe a little tidbit fact that you might not be aware of. Josh Gordon, remember that guy?
Oh,
he just got promoted to the 53-man roster, so he very well could be in uniform for the Sunday Nighter.
Yeah.
That adds a weapon to that dynamic offense already, right? Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce.
I'm worried. It worries me though, because the guy hasn't actually played in a lot of years, and we're just expecting him to still be the guy he was with the Browns.
When the Super Bowl champs from 2 years ago, and they also returned last year, seemed to see something in the guy. I don't know. I think there's some potential there. I'm very happy to say that I picked him up on fantasy as soon as I found out he was reinstated in the league.
Nice.
That could possibly be a league winner if he is that target number 3 for Patrick Mahomes and company. Man, it's going to be a great Sunday nighter. Again, that's exactly why I didn't want to compete. And let's do a Sunday morning coffee show with our preview palooza. That is what we're going to call it. Again, our marketing department firing on all cylinders here at the SquadCast. The preview palooza will be unveiled on Sunday, this Thanksgiving weekend, as we break down everything NHL and the 32 teams that will be competing for the 2021-2022 Stanley Cup. Do you have an early favorite? Again, I know that we talk about prediction season and what it all means in, again, early October before the pucks even drop. But do you have a complete favorite? I know we've gone on a couple shows and thrown some things out, but again, things change daily when it comes to seeing line combinations. You never know if Alex Kerfoot's going to be a fourth liner or a second, third line option coming out of the backfield. I don't know. Sorry, we're mixing sports now. But anyway.
Well, I don't know if you've heard my theory about potentially having William Nylander as a super third liner, but that's a whole nother show.
My dad, who may be tuned in right now, we had I'm the assistant GM of his keeper draft in fantasy, and there was a trade offer on the table to pick up William Nylander and some draft picks in exchange for Brad Marchand. And the polite way I said it was bleep no.
That's tough. That's a tough one.
Especially as a super third liner, I don't think Willie's going to quite put up the point production there. So,
well, yeah. So if you'd allow me, Max, just for the TikTok
allow, yes,
allow me to do this. I have this theory that they've been practicing William Nylander a lot with Alex Kerfoot in this preseason so far. Mikheyev has kind of been mixed in there, and maybe some other guys. So my thought process was, I wonder if in their heads they're trying to recreate the HBK line in Pittsburgh a couple years ago, where they had Hagelin, Bonino, and Kessel. So if you compare the lines, Mikheyev becomes Carl Hagelin. Kerfoot becomes Nick Bonino. I stuttered there because I'm laughing at your face. And then Kessel is William Nylander in that combination. And it becomes a matchup nightmare in terms of having to also think about the third line as an offensive threat along with the top two lines. Because obviously last year what we saw was Montreal just shut down Matthews' line in the playoffs. And obviously William Nylander had some opportunities and he played very well on that second line. But if they could have three lines going instead of just two, it makes a big difference. But anyways, that's my little.
You know the difference between the HBK line and whatever the
Two
third
cups?
line's going to be. Yeah, a few series wins, you know. But hey, you got to try something. You got to try something. I won't nag you too hard. It is now that the Jays are out. I am coming around on hockey season now. It is becoming an exciting time to think about the rink again. Good rhyme. Jeez, again, marketing department.
Mimicry is the sincerest form of flattery I think I've heard before.
Is that the words? Anyways, hey, you know what? Here's my Predators note for the evening. Guess who scored the overtime winner in the preseason tilt against the Carolina Hurricanes? If you still remember, they were the team that knocked us out. No, that would be Philip Tomasino, who is going to completely tear this league up. Maybe not this year, but in a couple of seasons. I think Philip Tomasino is he might be one of the reasons we let go of Rem Pitlick, to be quite honest. I think his development, his accelerated development has kind of usurped Rem Pitlick and where he was supposed to go and slot in this Nashville Predators lineup. Sure. It's unfortunate that the Preds couldn't get anything for Rem Pitlick because I do think he's a player, and especially going to Minnesota, man, the Minnesota-Nashville connection, geez, Kevin Fiala, Mikael Granlund, they had our assistant GM for a year. It's amazing the parallels. They have our former owner, Craig Leopold, there. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you look at the parallels and the comparisons. I hope Rem Pitlick has a good career. Just hopefully he dials it down for the games against the Predators this year.
Yeah, like he's going to do that. Just a couple of quick notes here before we let everybody go for the evening. I'm sure a lot of people have already tuned out, Max. But the Cowboys, this is a really interesting little note that came across my phone an hour ago. The Cowboys are releasing linebacker Jalen Smith. He's in the second year of a 6-year, $70 million contract. He was a big part of their defense last year, and they're just straight up releasing him. So that's just an interesting thing to maybe note for a future conversation topic.
Looks like a great pickup for the Rams.
You know it is absolutely.
But Micah Parsons has kind of again, it's a young man's league, right? It doesn't take a lot to kind of figure out that for the Cowboys, especially in that secondary, right? Trayvon Diggs, who's leading the league with 5 interceptions through 4 weeks. Micah Parsons, their first round draft pick this year, right? It's amazing how fast Jerry Jones moves in Dallas, right? And even though he signed him to a 6-year deal, don't matter if you're not producing results. And I want to say Jalen Smith has had some issues with injuries as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Potentially, but it's interesting that they just signed him to a 6-year deal and he's out.
Todd Gurley had a really long contract with the Rams too. Didn't exactly make it to the end of it. So
one other thing that came across the phone here is, I guess, how are you not tired?
We do this weekly. We're conditioned, man. I'm not conditioned to step on the ice this week, but I'm conditioned to talk sports for many, many hours, my friend.
Oh, you know what I forgot to do? And let me just do that really quick. Is the Great Western Original 16 nightcap. I'm going to crack open. This is how we do it, Myron. We have our Great Western nightcap from Original 16.
Is that the cranberry Christmas edition?
Cranberry hard seltzer. Yeah, I got that one going today.
Nice. Good stuff.
Always good time. Now, one thing, there's the last note here. Matt Ryan denies reports that he wants out. So he says, false. I think it's ridiculous. The Falcons quarterback tells The Athletic about this report that came out. And I just find it interesting that last week on this show, we talked with Andy McNamara, and I asked if Matt Ryan is going to get traded, where might he go? And there was kind of an interesting conversation that came from that. But I guess now, and I don't think this stemmed from that conversation, but now there's reports that he wants out. I think that's pretty interesting. And I'm curious to see again what the Falcons choose to do with him. He's, as Andy McNamara said, he's not done. Max, is there anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
For the Toronto Blue Jays, just to put it on record, this season was not a disappointment.
That's all I
got. That's all I got, my friend. Hey, here's to looking forward to next year for the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, it was a really sad Sunday. How did you cope with the loss? That's what I wanted to get to. How did you cope? What did you do Sunday night to cope? Because I had a very, a good coping strategy until I laid my head on the pillow and thought about it for 3 hours.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I watched them win. And that was a good game. They just dominated the game. George Springer, we talked about earlier, a grand slam, a home run. Vladdy Guerrero.
Yeah, 22 home runs in 78 games. Sorry.
Look out. I'm telling you, look out. Vladdy hit his, 49th, I think.
48.
Semien hit 48. I thought it was 49 and he was 1 away. No, it doesn't matter. Semien hit 45. I mean, just the amount of firepower they had just came to display in that game. And that's why I said I'm looking ahead. If they can just play the type of baseball they were playing in the second half and they can bring that to a full season, this team is I hate to look ahead too much and get too optimistic, but we could be looking at the Seattle Mariners of the early 2000s type success.
I like that take. I do.
Now they meme this. Meme it. They had seasons where they were winning 120 games, and again, that's really, really, really optimistic. But man, they have all the tools, and if they can maybe bring in an extra little piece this offseason, I think players are going to want to come to this team because they see a guy like Marcus Semien sign a 1-year deal and he's a freaking MVP candidate. They see Robbie Ray sign a 1-year deal and he's a Cy Young winner. And we talk with Craig year after year, or year after year, time after time, I should say, with Craig. Pete Walker's a pitcher whisperer. This ballpark, guys love hitting in the ballpark. So why not come here and hit a few home runs and join the crew? They hit 256 or whatever home runs this season. It's wild. So I know there's a lot. You missed the commercials, Myron?
Well, it gives everybody bathroom breaks. That's the thing. He is right.
True.
We have been going for nearly 2 hours straight, but I echo your sentiments, my friend. When it comes to the Jays, this is going to be a very, very interesting offseason to watch. Personally, I'm a very sentimental guy. I grow attached very, very easily. And Marcus Semien is a guy that if they can just find a way, if Rogers can
bring him back,
if Rogers cannot even reach deep down in their hearts, but their pocketbooks and say, you know what, here's $32 million a year for 5 years, Marcus, let's go win 3 World Series. I wonder if that's enough to get it done. And then in addition to that, Robbie Ray, this rotation, we talked about the rotation at the start of the year, and it was the least of our concerns. But you've got some controllable pieces.
It was the most of our concerns.
Well, I'm just saying that the way that the season transpired, it was the least of our concerns.
But you got Alek Manoah as a potential Rookie of the Year candidate. Robbie Ray, Cy Young candidate. Jose Barrios has dangerous stuff. Ryu is reliable, and I think he still will be. You saw Mark Burley later in his career lose a little bit of a step.
I like that comparable.
Mark Burley was extremely reliable as a pitcher, and that's all you need, especially if he's going to morph into a fourth pitcher. Now, I know he's making ace money, but he's going to be, if you can kind of morph him into a 3 or 4 pitcher and just get a good outing every single time out of him, that's good. And then you have, I don't know if Nate Pearson's still in the plans. I don't know if Steven Matz is coming back necessarily.
I think we talked about it. You nailed that take, though. I think, and we saw it a few appearances, right? Nate Pearson could be that guy that you stretch out to be not just your 8th inning shutdown guy, but your 7th inning setup guy. He could be that dual role guy that gets you through 6 outs with that elite level stuff and that elite level arm. He could carve out a nice little career for the Toronto Blue Jays, being that 7th and 8th inning guy. You really could.
Especially, Max, if they're going to become a team that does it where they pull out the starting pitcher after the 5th inning, the 3rd time through, whatever, they pull them out the 5th or 6th inning. You give Nate Pearson those next 2 innings, just fireball it, and then you bring in Romano, or you bring in Meza, or you bring in Merriweather, or whoever, and just kind of pinpoint and pick apart the teams at the end of the game. That's a deadly combination. If you can get Nate Pearson throwing 2 innings every couple of days, or like you said, just as Craig has said, you just let him come in for 1 inning and fireball his way through and nobody can touch it. I feel like that's where Nate Pearson's is most dangerous. I've said it months ago.
You said it months ago.
So anyways, I think we'll leave it there because we are stretching.
We could go another 3 hours on the Jays season, but I think Craig alluded to it as well too, to put a bow on this edition of the Blue Jays 2021 Memorial episode. 81 home games at the Rogers Center next year, man. That's all.
And we're going to at least one series.
I agree. I think that's got to happen without a doubt. We'll be looking at the finances. We'll be tickling the old tax-free savings account to make sure that we can get out to Toronto and have a good weekend with our beloved Toronto Blue Jays. But I think we must, as Myron said, he misses the commercials. We really got to point out our sponsors, considering that we did not have a commercial break this evening.
Right, and as I closed my laptop, I realized that my light was connected to said laptop. And my light
you got some really interesting electrician.
You should see all the stuff that's going on over here right now. Anyways, as you said, on behalf of everyone at ICAST, actually I got a funny text from there's my light back. I got a funny text from Paul Drew and he said, "You're not in the studio tonight? What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, Ryan told me there was renos happening. And we were going to do this. We weren't going to do this show anyways. So, because we wanted the Blue Jays to play.
Right.
So anyways, Paul drew and said, "Oh, that's great. He's our IKS connection. Thank you to Paul and IKS, of course.
He's everybody. The IKS leader, not just the connection. Yeah, he's the leader.
He's the big hoss, big boss. Now, thanks to them, thanks to Rockstar Supply Chain Solutions, of course. Thanks to Hoop Life, as Myron pointed out, Hoop Life, RBI.
We'll be talking some basketball next week with the boys at Hoop Life.
Yes, season original preview. 16. That's going to be the wrap here tonight. So Max, thanks for hanging out. We had a great show. I feel like tonight went really well. Thanks to everybody who subscribed to our brand new YouTube channel. I saw some people clicking the button tonight. I got a few notifications, so thank you for that. And if you haven't already, I think I put the link in the Facebook comments. But just go search the SquadCast on YouTube and hit that subscribe button, please. Or create a YouTube account if you don't have one, and then hit subscribe. And then follow us, of course, on our Twitter page and everywhere else. And we'll see you again on Sunday morning. And then again on Tuesday for a regular show. But we're going to be doing our preview palooza on Sunday morning. We're talking NHL season preview, every team. Well, I don't know if we're going to go into as much detail as we did in the Kraken draft, but pretty much every team. We're going to talk about the offseason stuff and kind of hype up the year. So, Max, I will talk to you again soon, buddy.
Absolutely. I hate the Washington Nationals. Have a great night, everybody.
I hate the Washington football team. Have a good night.